Mr. Congressman, we heard your questioning in particular saying, let's make believe the economy as a patient is coming to the doctor. How is your diagnosis of the issues of facing the economy? What did you think about his analysis? It sounded like we're in pretty good shape.
Well, look, as you said, I likened it to a periodic health assessment. You come out of the doctor, and the doctor tells you that the vitals are looking good. I mean, we got strong consumer confidence. We got a lot of consumer buying, a little weakness in the business investment side. We got some trade issues that we need to work through. But overall, the patient is doing pretty well within all the tolerances of as he says, his symmetric limits on inflation. And so I thought it was a pretty good analysis of the overall well-being of the patient right now. Now, there are some longer-term structural issues that our economy needs to be dealing with, and I thought he did a very effective job of putting that back at the feet of Congress and its Article I responsibility where a lot of those issues belong.
Well, I think you may be referring specifically to the debt and the deficit, Congressman, because he was asked things like, should we have a balanced budget amendment? He said, that's up to you how you do this, but we need a broad consensus to deal with the fiscal side of the House here. Do you see anybody really spearheading that broad consensus?
Well, we're going to get a clearer picture of do debt issues really matter? Do deficits matter next week when the Budget Committee has a hearing just on does the debt matter? And I think we'll get into things like modern monetary theory and those sorts of issues. But yes, I think that the Congress is well aware of the fact that the path we're on right now is not a sustainable path. And the chairman said that in as many words today. But look, we're going to rack up $1 trillion deficit this year. These deficits and this debt is growing as a percentage of our economy greater than is tolerable. And so something has to be done about it. And look, I think at the end of the day, most people in Congress know where the answers are. 70% of our federal budget is tied up in mandatory spending. Congress is not doing anything about mandatory spending. There's no real leadership right now in dealing with that part of the federal budget. But you're not going to be able to attrit a $1 trillion deficit unless you're into the mandatory programs, because, as I said, that's where 70% of the budget is. So, but I do think that there is coming a day when the Congress will have to accept the responsibility, because it is in Article I of the Constitution. That's our job, and the sooner the better, in my strong opinion.
So, Congressman, let's talk about that, because you're talking about entitlements. Let's be clear directly, and that has been something that's a third rail for Republicans and Democrats alike. At the same time, sometimes in the past, in the history of the Congress, they've addressed things like third rails, like base closures, like Social Security, by appointing a bipartisan committee. Go away, think about it some, come back and make a recommendation. Is there any move afoot to do something like that?
Well, look, there are several levers that you can, be turning here and there when you need to. And the Congress doesn't have the appetite right now because of politics to be able to start dealing with those. Now, the budget that I championed in 2019 when I was chairman of the Budget Committee did go into some of those programs, and we did start making some of those tweaks. Now, we never saw that budget come to the floor, so Congress never had an opportunity to weigh in on it. But we all know where the issues are, and the sooner the better for Congress to be dealing with those, because as you defer or delay the answers to these problems, these challenges, the decisions or the solutions, as it were, become far too draconian for anybody to want to tackle politically. And so every day that goes by that we're not addressing these, then it's a day lost in that quest.
Congressman, this is obviously a very important, as you say, long-term structural issue. Let's deal with one other shorter-term issue, and that is trade uncertainty, because that was discussed again by Jay Powell, saying that that's not helping on the business confidence, the business investment that you referred to. Is there anything Congress can do to get more certainty, particularly with the U.S.-China trade relationship?
Well, look, the last thing you need is 535 members of Congress dictating trade policy. So that's an administrative function, and I support that. And look, we all know that the elephant in the room, as it were, is China, and for a lot of different reasons. And so therefore, I support the president in his quest to hold China more accountable and to develop the kind of trade policies that are freer and fairer for everybody concerned. But the sooner the better that we can get these trade policies ironed out. And let's not forget that we got USMCA teed up and ready to go. It needs to come to the floor of the House. I think it will get over 300 votes when it does. Speaker Pelosi needs to bring USMCA to the floor, and I think that would be one example of many on the trade front that would serve our country very well economically.